Lonely is the night, cold are these walls. A lifetime of service, only to end up here. My sacrifice will protect Zion for generations. But now I sit here as a man without a country, trapped in a prison of infidels. At first I hated this cage, but now I see the truth. It protects me. Outside is no longer safe. Predator has become prey. To think how I ended up here. All I did was chase a feeling, using what some call love to win the war, getting my hands dirty so many people can stay clean. But this was foolish. No amount of water can wash away the sands and sins of Arabia. Now all I have is a letter, the occasional piece of fan mail. This one is special though. The pink envelope smells like her, like the girl we shared. A photograph falls from the card, but I decide to read first before looking. My memory of her is all I need. Surrounding the typed text is the outline of a woman, a crudely drawn sketch. It reads, "You're out of luck, out of love. Here is a photograph, picture of our woman. She's too much, the only one you want to touch. I see your face every time I dream, on every page, every magazine. You used to be so wild, so free, always far away from me, but we shared fantasies. Signed yours truly, DJT. Now I know he is coming for me. This letter a kiss of death, a sign to be. When I am gone, the world won't see the secrets of Jeffrey Epstein." It's windy on the beach, and everyone has a nice tan. I'm your host, Negative Nick, and this is the No Good News Podcast. So welcome back, everybody. We're really excited to be with you at the end of the summer as the tail end of summer comes about. I would always argue to people that the summer really ends at Labor Day. That's kind of my argument, because I feel like those arbitrary dates that they set for the seasons don't even apply anymore. You know, like it's, I forget the exact specifics, but like if you actually were like pull out a calendar and start looking at this, none of it makes sense. But what does make sense is that Trump is a predator. So let's talk about that intro. Obviously, you probably had to pull that one, play that one back and get some more information. But what's going on here is we now know that Trump is like not only a participant in Epstein's plans and schemes and predations, but Trump is like the head honcho. We now know that Epstein learned how to traffic girls from Trump. Trump would go to Europe and he would have his pageants. I'm sure you guys have heard about this. Miss America, he had all sorts of bullshit with pageants. And we know that before he even ran for office, an audio clip of him came out saying that he would go into the changing rooms and I forget the exact quote, but it was like, he goes into the changing rooms with like the young naked girls and he just looks at them and they can't do anything because he owns the pageant. This came out before he even won the first time. And Epstein and Trump would work together to traffic young girls internationally, whether that was to the island or to other people. And what's it called? That intro is obviously about what I believe to be true, which is I'm now fully convinced that Trump had Epstein killed. Trump was president when Epstein was killed, and Epstein was in a federal prison. We know that the Trump administration, first, when they're all running for office, now this isn't Trump. Trump was always very quiet about it. In his first term, he wished Ghislaine well. He wished Epstein's predator wife, he wished her well. You guys probably remember that infamous soundbite. But the people running under him, that'd be Dan Bongino. What's this girl's name? She's crazy. She's white. She's the white chick. Pam Bondi. There we go. So Dan Bongino, Pam Bondi, all the little minions under Trump, as they're running for office, they're like, oh yeah, we're going to release the Epstein files. And the Democrats are covering up the Epstein files. Well, now they get into office and all of a sudden, where are the Epstein files? They said, if you guys remember, they said on day one, we're going to release the Epstein files. Then day one comes and goes. I've mentioned this before. Then since I've last spoken with you guys, they came out and they said, actually, the list doesn't even exist. That's what they said. They come out and say it doesn't even exist. We now know that in May, Pam Bondi told Trump that he was in the Epstein files. Trump then tells the FBI to scan the thousands and thousands of pages they have on Epstein and to highlight his name every single time it appears. Obviously, so it could be redacted or deleted, obviously. So we know for a fact that Bondi, well, I shouldn't say for a fact, but it's pretty good sources, okay? I mean, all this stuff is like pretty good sources. I did a lot of research coming at you guys with this segment. We now know that Bondi told Trump in May that he was in the files, and that Trump told the FBI to find his name and highlight it for redaction. And then all the media comes out, even Alex Jones, the king of conspiracy. At this point, the Epstein files and Trump being involved isn't even a conspiracy. It's an open secret. It's not even a conspiracy anymore. And Alex Jones comes out and he's defending Trump, saying that like Trump has been co-opted and that we should trust him and there must be a reason. And all the king's horses and all the king's men rally behind. So we got Ben Shapiro, Charlie Kirk, all these guys coming out on social media and saying, why do people care so much about the Epstein files? Well, we care about the Epstein files because it, number one, goes against Trump's base, who believed that Biden was a predator, which Biden was a predator, but not to the extent that Trump was, we now know. Biden is just weird. He likes to smell your kids. Trump likes to touch your kids. I mean, God, it's two hard choices, but at the end of the day, you go with the nose. 100%. Oh. So they both got problems, right? As old men typically do. But the people that voted for him, whole online movements about, protecting children, right? Now they get elected and they can't even possibly believe, they can't believe that their savior is actually the chief villain himself. And another reason that I in particular care about the Epstein files is because it shows that Israel owns our entire government and that Epstein is a Mossad, is an Israeli asset. Just today, we are recording this episode on August the 11th. Just today, the last photo of Epstein alive prior to his arrest has been released. And it was released by his butler. And it was taken, I believe, on Epstein's plane. And it's Epstein's butler of like 28 years. And this, the butler did a whole news article, a whole segment in the news, and it came out today. And in the photo, Epstein looks terrible. By the way, he's an old man. He's old. Remember, he's like basically Trump's age. So he looks terrible, okay? Guy's falling apart, as a life of sin does to you. And his sweatshirt, he's wearing a sweatshirt. It's like a greenish sweatshirt in the photo. The sweatshirt is literally the insignia of the Israeli Defense Forces, which is the Israeli military. And around the insignia is the words Israeli Defense Forces, IDF. So in the last known living picture of Epstein before he's arrested by authorities, he's wearing an IDF sweatshirt. Homie is 100% an asset for Israel. And he had dirt on Trump. And that's why in the intro, I say, when Trump is writing his love letter to Epstein about the girlfriend that they shared, which is true, you guys can look this up. Epstein and Trump shared a girlfriend. If you don't believe me, just look it up. It's super weird. That's what wealthy people do. When people get money, they just become weirdos. Or you know what? Money reveals who you truly are. So they were always weird. I guess we're going to go with that. Weird's an understatement. Predatory is probably what the word we should be using here. So, what's it called? He's talking about the girlfriend they share, and the photograph slips out of the card. And we know that Trump wrote a letter to Epstein on his birthday. This is before he was in prison, but it was good for the story. But he wrote a letter to Epstein, and the letter is the outline of a woman. You guys should look this up. And Trump signs his name where the woman's crotch is located because he drew a sketch of a woman in the letter. And he signs it, "Our Secret," which is clearly implying like the girlfriend they share. And at that time, it was kind of widely known. But Trump sees Epstein in his dreams, which I say in the intro, because he's afraid that Epstein is going to talk to the authorities and not only get Trump removed from office, but get Trump arrested for underage crimes. And Epstein is obviously on every page in every magazine. That intro was inspired by the story about Epstein came out in that letter, the letter that Trump wrote him about the girlfriend they shared. That story came out, and then a few days later on the radio, or not on the radio, on my phone, on Spotify, the song Photograph by Def Leppard came on. And I heard the lyrics, and I was like, this perfectly matches. So I'm really happy with that intro there. But, Trump is now, forget releasing the Epstein files. They've moved Ghislaine Maxwell, who is Epstein's predatory wife, who is, according to the victims, just as, if not more cruel than Epstein. I think some things have come to light, and my understanding is that Epstein is a sexual predator, but he really saw it as a job, working for Israel to get blackmail on powerful people. Whereas his wife, Ghislaine, is just a true psychopath. Like, that's the understanding that I have. And all the victims that have come out and spoken publicly, they say that Ghislaine was actually worse than Epstein, and that Ghislaine would also rape them in addition to Epstein. Well, Trump has moved Ghislaine to a minimum security prison. This has happened very recently. Not only has he moved her to a minimum security prison, she's now in talks with the government. So guys, don't be surprised if what happens here is Ghislaine comes out and she says that Trump never had any involvement, and maybe they throw out a few names to feed to the wolves, some Democrats, some low-level players. But don't fall for it. Trump is 100% involved. Epstein is on audio file, on recording, saying that Trump was his, quote, best friend for over a decade. Guys, he's in on it. He is 100% a sexual predator, which is obviously a bad thing. But if you're like, oh, that's his personal life, which is a really fucked up thing to say. But even on a political level, it is guys, this is 100% consolidated proof. The Israelis own Trump. And that is why he's giving him all these sweetheart deals, all these weapons, and turning a blind eye to the genocide. So Trump is a compromised asset. The Democrats were blowing the whistle and saying that he was owned by Russia, which we know is a hoax and isn't true. It wasn't true. I'm talking about Russiagate, which was the Steele dossier that Hillary Clinton and Obama knew was fake in the 2016 election. That's what I'm talking about. But but they missed the mark. They were close. They were so close. Trump is actually an agent of Israel. But the thing is, Clinton was as well. We now also know that Bill Clinton was blackmailed by Israel because they bugged the White House and they had bugged the phones, and they blackmailed Clinton they had on audio him and Monica Lewinsky having sex. So we now know that Israel owned Clinton and that they own Trump. So please, let's just all be honest with each other and admit it at this point. So, and there was actually a great interview. Oh yeah. So okay, I don't want to lose my train of thought though. Watch him pardon Ghislaine. Watch him give her some kind of deal for her to testify publicly, but she's going to lie under oath and she's going to say that Trump had no involvement. It's going to happen. It's 100%. It's going to, I think it's very likely. The fact that they moved her to a minimum security prison and that they're in talks is already a sign that something's going to happen there. And also, I want to briefly touch on Biden, specifically his son, Hunter Biden. Hunter Biden recently did a very excellent interview on, I believe it's called Channel 5 News. It's on YouTube. They're a great news channel. I watch all their stuff. And it was like a 3-hour, some super long interview with Hunter Biden. And it was his first public appearance in years. Well, who would have thought? This guy's actually really smart. And when you listen to him, he's super thoughtful. He's very open about his prior drug addiction and all sorts of things. And and let's be clear, He's corrupt. Like he worked for Burisma. He was in the pocket of Ukraine, making money off of them. His dad was involved. That's 100% true. The point I'm trying to make is like the power of media's influence. Like the media machine convinced us that like Hunter was like degenerate, unintelligent, good for nothing. But at the end of the day, he was really just a depressed guy who lost his brother and mom in a car accident, and he became a drug addict. But underneath that addiction was actually a really smart individual, whereas underneath Trump is a moron. Now, and I think that you guys should give Hunter a chance. And when I say give him a chance, I mean just watch the interview. I'm not saying you have to become his number one fan. I'm certainly not. But you should watch the interview because, if we can humanize, if in modern America we can humanize a casino-owning pedophile, then we can also humanize an oil executive turned painter, right? So give it a listen. It's pretty good stuff. And, that also... the whole Epstein thing is absolutely crazy. Trump is also now talking about pardoning Diddy, another known sexual predator. It's like he loves to just associate with these people. The other day, Trump announced that they're bringing back, what's it called? Like the Iron Man, the Captain America challenge. It's the presidential fitness test. I think that's what it's called. They're bringing back a high school fitness test that was first instituted by, I believe, John F. Kennedy. It's like you'd have blue team and red team. It's basically like training super soldiers to fight the Soviets. So we're bringing it back. So I think we're definitely revving up those gears to fight the Chinese pretty soon. But this program, Trump announces that it's coming back to high schools in the United States. And behind him on the stage, he's got like a famous wrestler. I think his name is something man, or I don't know. The name doesn't really matter. He's got a famous wrestler behind him, but also behind him, he has a former athlete who I forget the name of, but I'm kind of going off the cuff here, but this is real. He's got a former athlete behind him, and this athlete is a convicted sexual predator who's had relations with a 15-year-old. Could you imagine signing an executive order relating to a high school fitness program, and one of your celebrity sponsors is a convicted sexual criminal? Like, what is happening? What has our country become where we're just inviting these people to the White House? Trump's normalization of sexual crimes is absolutely insane. I just can't even believe it. So we've had a lot go on, and let me see if I could get the name of this test. Yeah, we got it right here. It's called the Presidential Fitness Test. It was created in the 1950s. So you know what? Excuse me, that was not Kennedy. That'd probably be Eisenhower. Okay, that checks out. Yeah. Okay, same vibe though. My general consensus was correct. It was basically made to train our young men to die in war against the Soviets. So, this test evaluates the cardiovascular fitness, flexibility, agility, endurance, upper body, and core strength of young high school-aged males. So we're bringing that shit back. So Anthony, get ready to go to war. Anyways, let's see. But besides Epstein, a lot has happened with me personally. So I'll talk about that a little bit too. A lot has happened since I last saw you. And also, I just have some thoughts about people that have been, I listen, obviously I've got working ears and I hear things come and they go in one ear and they go out the other most of the time. But sometimes I hear something and it makes my ears perk up a little bit. And I think that there's a real problem in our society. There's a cultural war, a crusade against naps. You heard about this? You ever, in your life, do people speak poorly about nap taking? Do you take naps?
Here and there, but people do. It is like a form of weakness.
It's looked down upon.
Yeah.
It's absolutely looked down upon, and that's not right. That's 100% not right. And then one thing I heard from someone I know in my life, I know you're listening. They said to me, "Well, Nick, while you sleep, the world is awake." And that's true, but when I'm awake, the world is asleep. So what point are you trying to prove here? It doesn't even matter. A nap is a very important part of a balanced lifestyle. That's how I feel. When you live a life as crazy and disorganized as my own, it's hard to stay awake for, 12 hours straight, and I think that I accomplish much more whenever I take a nap. I mean, you see how sharp I am on this podcast? Aren't you having a great time? This is the result of a nice, solid 1 hour nap. Every single episode, if I don't take a 1 hour nap before, it'd be an absolute travesty for you guys to listen to. You'd have to turn it off. You couldn't even stand it. So there's just this cultural war against naps. And I am here to prove that you can be a high functioning member of society and also addicted to nap taking. And I will 100% die on that hill. And, I've just become, and I think that a big part about being negative Nick, and a big part about having personal beliefs is that it's always important to look at those in power, point at them, and criticize them, right? I've seen a lot of people in my life that are very close to me who had opinions when the Democrats were in charge, completely switch their opinions now that the conservatives are. And, that's a real shame to me. But I think I've been fighting against the conservatives. What has it been, 6 months, 5 months? Feels like an eternity that this guy's been in charge. But I feel like I've been fighting, and trying to convince the conservatives for so long at this point that I'm starting to find AOC attractive. And that's how I know that I might actually just be becoming a liberal. I think that my friends are radicalizing me, and a sign of that is when I see a photo of AOC, I'm like, she's kind of pretty. She's got this very nice video. It's very old now, of when she was doing ballet, contemporary dance on a rooftop in New York City. Great watch. It's like a 13-second watch. Nothing scandalous. It's just, it's nice to appreciate art, right? And that's what that is. Great video. I'd highly recommend that you look it up. But, I could never, I can't see the current press secretary. She's an absolute witch. I couldn't even imagine her doing such elegant dance on a New York City rooftop, So maybe it's just that the liberals have more of an appreciation for the arts. I mean, they do call it liberal arts, right? Mm-hmm. So I guess that checks out. And it's just there's just been so much happening. I've been to so many places in recent months. I went back to DC, did a night trip with a friend. It was a great time. We just went for one night, and the city's absolutely beautiful at night. I think DC is better at night than during the day. All the vendors go away, the tourists go to bed, and then it's just me and the homeless. That's it. It's just us, and we run that town. That's it. It's just us. You get on the subway, all the people that are employed, they're home. They're ready to go to sleep. And I have a job too, but like I said, I can operate outside of the normal bounds of society. So as a nap taker, I'm able to get closer to the ground. I get to smell the air, and I get to see the homeless live in their environment, right? So at night, it's just the homeless and the degenerates on the train. I saw a woman. Her ass was so big, it was popping out of her jeans. She must have weighed 300 pounds. And she's got 3 children on the train. No, and they're just riding the train. And she's on the phone. Of course, she's on speaker, even though it's on a public train. So you can imagine the type already. I know that every single person listening already has an image in their head. And that's good. And your image is 100% accurate. So she's on the phone and she says to somebody, I don't know who it was on the phone. They're barely, neither person can barely speak anyways. But they say, yeah, we've been on the train for hours. They've just been sitting on the train, back and forth. Because it's heated, right? And it's air conditioned. So it's a nice place to hang out. You've got the kids on the floor. They're doing coloring books. It's basically their home for the night, and I guess they just hang out there until the trains stop running. And you know what? Game respects game. You do whatever you can to survive. But that's what it was. That's Washington, D.C. at night. And after being in that city, even though there's a lot of homelessness, I actually felt very safe. And I was able to find some data here about the crime statistics. So in just the last year, so since 2024, violent crime in D.C. is actually down 26%. All crime is down 7%, but violent crime is down 26%. Inclusive of that violent crime, homicides are down 12%, aggravated assault is down 20%, robbery is down 28%, and sexual abuse is down 49%. So the city is doing very well right now. It's doing good. They've made improvements to infrastructure. They recently approved, what do they call this? Like modernization to the metro system. I've got a little metro card. I actually think it's a good metro system, and I think it's better than New York City, right? Producer agrees. He was making big boy money over there this summer as an engineer, making rockets, satellites, and shit. We got an absolute genius on the other side of the mic over here.
Stop it.
So we, in DC, but despite the improved safety of the city, Trump has declared, as of today, that he's federalizing the police and sending in the National Guard to reduce crime and, quote, take back our city, to liberate DC. Guys, this is all a ruse. He did it in LA, which I'm going to talk about in a bit. And now he's doing it again in DC. And the thing is, when they sent the Marines and the National Guard into LA, there was reports at the time that they were already drafting up plans to do this in every major city. What what they're doing is they're creating a playbook to institute martial law if needed. That's what's really going on here. Because it's very hard in a country like ours, in a free society, to on a dime flip into fascist rule and control. So what you got to do is you got to prepare people. You got to make a playbook, right? Because the logistics involved in oppressing an entire population, it's actually very complicated. There's a lot of people to pay, a lot of people to bribe, right? So this whole system right now creates that playbook. It creates the government apparatus to where in the future it can be done in an instant and be done in a more efficient manner. So that's really concerning. And it was only recently, it was only like a week or two ago, I think, that they finally got those Marines out of LA. And what that whole thing proved is that Trump got away with it. People freaked out. The media freaked out. But then something new happened. Trump committed some other crime. The news story turned over. The news cycle rotated. And in the end of the day, Trump won. He was able to occupy the city. And he proved that if it could be done in America's largest metropolitan area, then it can certainly be done anywhere else. And closer to the seat of power. I mean, LA is so far away from the powers of the federal government. But if that authority can be exercised in our largest metropolitan area, as really, really far from the capital, then he'll have no problems in Washington, D.C. And that's very, that's scary, and it's a sign of bad things to come. And I think a lot of these fears are just coming from I don't think I'm even being irrational, but it might just be that I'm getting old. I recently turned 23 years old, and I'm sitting there on my birthday. I wake up like any other day, extreme back pain. I could barely feel my joints. That's the point I'm at in my life at this point. I roll out of bed. I'm groggy. I sit down in the toilet to use the bathroom in the morning. And I'm sitting there saying, oh my God, it's just another day. And then I got people texting me. I'm at the age now. I think I've expired. I'm already old. People are calling me and texting me on my birthday, and I'm just like, I love them. I really appreciate it. But it's just too much. It's just too much. All the phone calls. And you guys know me. You know that I love to do phone calls. But getting like 60 in a day is too much. Or this is my favorite one. When you get a message on Snapchat from somebody you haven't spoken to in 6 years, like, come on. At this point, I just unfollow them. So it was a good way for me to filter my contacts on Snapchat. Because they don't, because it's, and maybe that's just me being cynical. I don't know. But I had a few people reach out, and I was really happy to hear from them. But a lot of the people in my life that I really care about, they don't even know my birthday, And that's okay. And that's fine. And that's how I want it to be. That's how I want it to be. Because I feel like if you're only calling me on my birthday, you don't actually care about me anyways. If you've got to set something up in your calendar to reach out to me and touch base, like it's a quarterly agreement, that shouldn't be. I would much rather. You see, I have a friend who I speak to almost every day, maybe certainly once every week for sure. He called me on my birthday. We had a full conversation. It was like over an hour. We hung up. He had no idea it was my birthday. That's the best way to live life. Somebody who just wants to talk to you for no reason at all. They want your insights or whatever. They want to hear your opinion. Did you see this? Did you hear about this? Right? So I'm old now. When I was younger, I was really excited to get all the calls and whatnot, but now it's just like I just want to be left in peace. And I don't and I'm tired of pretending. And it's also a favor to the other person. Why should me and somebody else who's basically a stranger both have to pretend that we're friends? And then they text me happy birthday and I don't even know how to respond. Do I hit him with a thank you? All right. Then why'd you even reach out? It's like I said, guys. I mean, look, I'm negative Nick. At the end of the day, I'm just a pain in the ass to be around. That's just the honest truth of the matter. And I'm getting scared. I recently got Facebook, right? And then that leads to a whole new slew of these birthday messages, right? And Facebook, and this is how I know I'm old. I know I'm old because I'm not even interested enough in learning how to use a new social media platform. I download Facebook, I make this account, they want to link it to my Instagram. This app, it's confusing. I'm like legitimately confused. Like I don't even understand how Facebook works. Like people will say to me, on my birthday they say, this person added to your feed. I don't even know what the language is. But then I go on my app and I can't find it. And it's like, it's just too much. The only reason I downloaded Facebook was because I'm going to Egypt in January and I had to contact an Egyptian to set up my hotels and whatnot. And he can only be contacted through Facebook because that's how remote I'm going. I'm really going to you're really going to the middle of nowhere when the only way you could contact somebody is through Facebook. No phone number, no Instagram, no website, nothing.
WhatsApp.
I mean, he might have a WhatsApp. I think they're owned by Facebook, so it might be the same thing. But on, what's it called? I found a Reddit post that said, contact this guy in Egypt. And they gave his contact. So that's the only reason I downloaded Facebook, so I could talk to an Egyptian, But now I've got people who are following me. I've got my dental hygienist following me on Facebook. I feel like that's a violation of privacy, right? That must be some kind of HIPAA violation. Has to be, right? I mean, what's going on here? I've got my T-Mobile representative. He followed me on Facebook. People coming all out of the woodwork to follow Nick Nunez on Facebook. Oh my God! I just realized that now everyone's gonna follow me on Facebook. Terrible! Don't do that, please, 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 please don't. So I'm not gonna post anything. After Egypt, I think I'm just gonna delete the app. Once I don't need to contact Muhammad anymore, I think I'm just gonna delete it.
Is that his name?
Yeah, his name's Muhammad. Because of course it is. So. And I mean, it's just this whole AI thing scares me too. Like now that I'm 23, I'm no longer excited about technology. I'm just worried about how it's going to impact my employment. A true sign of aging. And this AI stuff, it's I'm at the age now where I'm no longer fascinated by technology. I'm just afraid of it. But these language models, I think I've still got them beat. Because I'll talk to them and they'll tell me false information, but they'll pretend that it's true. Has this happened to you, producer? You has?
Times, yeah.
Perfect. And they'll tell me something like I'll be another thing was when they recently showed that when school ended, AI usage dropped by like 60%. Which proves that like the entire the majority of the technology is just kids cheating in school, which is also kind of encouraging, which means like it's not that much of a threat. They recently we can now use AI at work. It's like we can only use Google Copilot at work. So months and months ago, it was like, don't use AI. That's a serious violation. Now they want us to use AI. They're like encouraging it. They're like I didn't make an account and I got like 3 emails. Like, hey, we noticed that you haven't signed up for Google Copilot. You're like, yeah, I don't want to train this robot how to do my job. Like, why am I gonna develop it's like asking an employee to train his replacement. I'm not gonna do that. Hell no. So now I just give the robot false information. Like I just tell it false things about my job and false things about what I do. Because they are 100% building a profile on all of us. They're gonna try to reduce workforce or combine jobs or whatever. So as my act of civil disobedience, I'm just telling it legitimately false things about my job. I feel like that's all I can do at this point, because as a young man in a big machine, you got to fight back in any way that you can. So one way that I'm going to do it is I'm just going to give this AI false information about my job. Yeah. So, and it's just another thing is like another thing with being old now is I don't really like being told what to eat. Or let me be even more specific. I don't like when I'm eating something and somebody looks at me and they're like, you're eating that the wrong way. Or like, are you gonna like, oh, you're not gonna finish your plate? Like, okay, I went to an Indian restaurant recently. That's another problem. They say that's an illness I contracted. After going to India for 2 weeks, I actually like their food now. It's a serious problem. So now I find myself in the United States craving the food of the slums that I lived on in India. And the thing is, in America, it's so much more expensive. They're charging me like $8 for some naan bread or some roti, delicious roti, Indian unleavened bread. Whereas in India, you could get that for like 8 cents a piece. Some places just give it to you for free. But not, of course, not in the United States. But I like a nice lime soda at an Indian joint. That's really good. But I'm at the Indian place, and they give you a fuck ton of rice, right? The plate full of rice. It's basically overflowing. And I eat the food, and it's good, it's delicious, and I'm ready to go. I'm done. Waiter comes by, looks at me, they're like, "You're done?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm done. It was delicious. Thank you so much." They say, "Well, would you like a box to take your rice to go?" My rice to go. They want me to finish my rice like I'm a rabbit. This is absolutely crazy. Like, I don't like when somebody tells me to finish rice. Like, the purpose of rice isn't to actually make the meal. It's really just there because you didn't order a side item. It's there to like establish a base. It's a mixer, you know? That'd be like, no one orders alcohol for the mixer. They order it to get fucked up, right? That's why you're going out to drink, right? Well, you're not going out to an Indian place for rice. I want some chicken. I want the chicken tikka, if I'm going to go for a basic dish. If I'm going to upgrade it, I might go Josh Rogan. I know a lot about this Indian food now. But my point is, I don't like being told to finish rice. That's my point. So I feel like I'm at the age now where I'm just ready to retire. I think I've been working a long time. I've lived a full life. I've traveled a lot. I've done everything there is to do. And I think it's just time to put me out to pasture. If AI takes my job, I hope that I get some kind of nice welfare check from the government. Maybe they'll take care of me or something. And that's it. Because I'm tired, man. Every day waking up, going to work, trying to live a wholesome life. It's just too much. Trying to think about my future in this economy. Oh my God, this economy is just shot for young people. We'll get to that pretty soon. And I know at this point, you guys are thinking, oh my God, Nick, could you get any more negative? And the answer is yes. We're going to talk about the state of Indiana. Indiana is a state with truly nothing remarkable to speak about. As I drove to Indiana, so I had a business venture. We're going to call it a venture in the state of Indiana in June. And we had some massive heat wave come through the United States. It went from North Carolina all the way to Indiana and up to Jersey. As I'm driving to Indiana, I'm trying to remember, what was this drive? Was it 12 hours? We're going to say it was 12 hours. I was driving to Bloomington, Indiana, okay, from Jersey. About 2 hours into the drive, so I'm like around Philadelphia, my AC breaks. Stops working in the car. It's blowing out hot air. The air coming out of the AC is hotter than the air outside. And it's in the middle of a heat wave. The thermometer on my car reads 98 degrees. So hot. My AC breaks. I'm like, all right, well, that's how it is. And that's fine, because my car's old, so I knew it would happen eventually. Oh, by the way, fast forward, I fixed it. It's working perfectly now. But now I've committed myself to a 2-week adventure. I'm going to go to Indiana. I'm going for a week. Then I'm going to have my business thing. I was visiting some friends out in the Midwest. I'm going to conduct my business. Then I'm going to drive back. So I've committed myself to like a 2-week affair. And my AC breaks. So I've got to put the windows down. And when you put the windows down, you get a greater appreciation for where you are. You get that crisp air in the Pennsylvania mountains in central PA. You get the smell of wood chips, when you're in Columbus, Ohio. And when you're in Indiana, you get the smell of manure. It permeates the air, and it dominates the whole state. Even cities I went to, like Indianapolis or Bloomington or Fort Wayne, Indiana, you're walking around a metropolitan urban area, and you smell the manure. The wind just carries it. And you know what the thing is? It kind of smells good, too. Kind of smells good. It reminded me of home. It reminded me of India.
Fertilizer?
Yeah, I mean, the manure is the fertilizer. You know, that's how they roll out there. And there's windmill. It's so flat. The land is just flat. You know, you can see for miles and miles. And there's wind, what do they call those things? Wind turbines? They're like renewable energy. Windmills? What do they call those?
Turbines.
Turbines. You've got a skyline full of turbines, hundreds of them. As I'm driving on the highway, just with my own eyes, I see at least 100 in the distance, lined up next to each other as far as the eye can see. They're building new houses out here for $230,000, 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. Absolute steal. But what's the drawback? Well, the drawback is you're living amongst inbred Northern Europeans. But if you could get by that, you know, I stuck out like a sore thumb. They looked at me with the curiosity that I would look at like a person from Zimbabwe. Does that make sense? Like they've never seen my kind before.
Sure, yeah.
With my hair, my jet black hair, and my aesthetic. They dress different out there. They talk different. But they're a good, honest, hardworking people. They're farmers. You know, they built this country. But there's just nothing out there for me. Nothing out there for me, except for apparently a 3-day business trip. So it was nice to go. It was nice to visit. But it's the place to be if you want a simple and honest life. That's what I would say. But I don't want a simple and honest life. You know, I want a life of debauchery and scandal. So Indiana's not for me. Yeah. And you know, I was talking a moment ago about how it's hard to be a young person. And I saw some statistics and I wrote these down. Here we go. A growing number of young men are single, and they're not even searching for a girl. It's actually over 50%. So over 50% of young men are single and not looking, which is absolutely crazy. There's also now data showing that in 2030, which is like, 5 years from now, 45% of women between 25 and 44 will be single and child-free. So men aren't looking for whatever reason, and women are, I guess, not looking either. I mean, I don't really know how to explain that part of the statistic, but it's like, what's going on with the young people? You know? It just makes no sense. And like we've come full circle because like by 2030, having a girlfriend is going to be gay. Like it's going to be unheard of and it's going to be like socially taboo. It's very strange what's going on with the young kids these days. I don't even know what's happening. What do you think is going on, producer? You got an opinion on this? Our producer's in a long-term, very successful relationship, so he can maybe speak on why his peers, what's going on?
Go outside more.
They have to smell grass, right?
Yeah,
exactly. They have to smell manure. They have to go to Indiana, right? That's what's going on. So I'm very shocked. And you know, the young kids up in Jersey, they like to go to these concerts, right? Mm-hmm. And Bruce Springsteen is like a local celebrity up there, right? Well, he's a celebrity, but like he's a local, you know, he's a big deal. Mm-hmm. So whenever you go to see pretty much any artist perform, a lot of these venues just call up Bruce and like he'll come on at the beginning of the show and do a few songs. You know, he loves it. Everybody enjoys it. And my cousin goes to his concert and he starts singing his song, Born in the USA. You heard this before? Mm-hmm. Great song. Okay. Well, she comes home to me and she says to me, Nick, I can't believe it. I can't be a fan of Bruce Springsteen anymore. He's a liberal. I said, what do you mean? She says, I was like, what do you mean? Like, you didn't know? And she's like, well, he gets on stage and he starts talking politics about like immigrants and shit before he sings Born in the USA. And I said to her, don't you know that Born in the USA is an anti-American song? And she says, no, what are you talking about? And I said, you got to listen to these lyrics. I mean, you got to pull up this song and listen to Born in the USA is a song against the Vietnam War. It's a song criticizing the United States. It's a anti-patriotic song. But then that got me thinking, and then on Instagram I see these reels, of people, of conservatives posting whatever bullshit they want to talk about. And often in the background of their reel, they'll have the song Born in the USA or another very common song, Fortunate Son. You guys have heard this one too, Fortunate Son. It starts off, down now, down now, down now, down now, it's that song. And conservatives love to put this stuff in the background. Fortunate Son is not only anti-patriotic, it's like that song is super anti-American. It talks about how the son of a senator is a fortunate son and he is able to dodge the draft, whereas other people can't dodge the draft. And the person singing the song literally says, I'm no fortunate son. So it just absolutely blows my mind that people associate these songs with conservative politics and patriotism when they're the exact opposite. And you know what? That might actually just prove the underlying intelligence of conservatives. But I don't understand what's going on. And I say this as a conservative. I enjoy those songs. But for my cousin to be oh my God, I can't like Bruce Springsteen anymore because he's a liberal. It's all you have to do is read the lyrics. Here's some producer was a gentleman and he pulled up some lyrics for me. Here's the lyrics to the song. I'm just going to read a few verses for you. Born down in a dead man's town. The first kick I took was when I hit the ground. End up like a dog that's been beat too much till you spend half your life just covering it up. Born in the USA. Got in a little hometown jam, so they put a rifle in my hand. Sent me off to a foreign land to go and kill the yellow man. Born in the USA. Come back home to the refinery. Hiring man says, son, if it was up to me. Went down to see my VA man, Veterans Affairs. He said, son, don't you understand now? This is all the war veterans who come home and there's no jobs for them. They go off to war, they get mutilated, they die, they get mental illness, they come home, and there's no work for them. And people don't want to hire them because they're seen as a workplace threat because they have all this shell shock. Next verse, I had a brother at Khe Sanh. Khe Sanh, that was a battle in the war. Fighting off them Viet Cong. They're still there. He is all gone. He had a woman he loved in Saigon. I got a picture of him in her arms now. The song is so against American imperialism. And you're oh, well, Nick, you're just cherry picking a few verses. No, I just read to you the entire song. So no, the entire song is about what it's like to be born in the USA and drafted into war. So I just feel people should just understand the music they enjoy. That's all I'm trying to say. So yeah. Anyways, but look, back to 50% of young men being single. But not even looking. I don't fall into that statistic because I am looking. But I think that being single can really be summarized in one true thought. Being single is having a list of rom-com movies that you want to watch with someone else, right? But being in a relationship is finding out that your girlfriend doesn't watch movies. And I feel that kind of summarizes both sides of the problem. People that are single, they want someone to enjoy life with, but then they get into a relationship and I would say more often than not, that person's not a good match. You want to watch rom-coms, but she only watches TV, right? So maybe it's just people are more picky these days. I have no idea because I look at a lot of these older couples that are married and they just absolutely fucking hate each other. So I would much rather be single than be married to someone I outwardly detest, So maybe that's what's going on now. Maybe just young people are more selective. I think it's a multifaceted issue. So, anyways, these are just some of some of Nick's thoughts here. We're gonna take a break, and obviously, there's I don't talk for free, as you guys know. So we've got to give some airtime to the sponsors. We'll be right back. During wartime, governments have always juggled with problems of morale, resource management, and target prioritization. Generals unable to account for each of these issues can expect to incur heavy losses and in most cases lose a campaign outright. We have a solution, courtesy of the Ukrainian Army of Drone program. We are proud to introduce Brave One. Brave One is a public, online leaderboard where independently operated drone crews can post their kills for the public to see. In addition, soldiers can learn from each other and use their points to purchase military equipment directly from the supplier. Soldiers can leave product reviews, post on community forums, and resupply courtesy of the Ukrainian government. This system gamifies war, proves incredibly accurate when tracking battlefield casualties, and respects unit autonomy, all while allowing the government to tweak battlefield objectives via point values. In our most recent update, Patch 3.0, infantry kills were upgraded from a worth of 2 points to 6 points. This resulted in doubling the number of kills and boosted morale even further. So what are you waiting for? Contact the Department of Drones to start your free trial of Brave One. Brave One, the next generation of logistics. Back from the ad break. I want to start this next section by talking about foreign policy with a quote, a recent released quote of President Xi Jinping of China. It's kind of a long one, but I think it's fascinating. Quote, "The world can move on without the United States. 100 years ago, the British Empire dominated global commerce, commanding more than 20% of the world's wealth. Many believed its sun would never set. 200 years ago, France bestrode Europe's stage. Its armies feared, its culture envied. Napoleon declared himself immortal. 400 years ago, the Spanish crown reigned from Manila to Mexico, its treasure fleets growing with silver and silk. The kings thought their glory would be eternal. Each empire proclaimed itself indispensable. Each was ultimately eclipsed. Power wanes, influence migrates, and legitimacy dies the moment it's assured rather than earned. Should America forfeit the world's respect, it will discover what every fallen empire learned too late. The world moves on, always." Very intelligent and thought-provoking quote from our future leader, Xi Jinping. I want to get on the record right now and say that I think that was very wise, and I'm really excited for his eventual leadership in the country. I think he could do a lot of good things, and I would like to be part of that future vision. Perhaps even, working in media, working in broadcasting. Who knows? Xi, if you're listening, hit me up, bro. So, it's becoming very apparent to the rest of the world that these tariffs are punitive, but to us. The other countries, they view it as hostile because they're not going to be able to sell as many of their goods. So their export market is going to be reduced. But as we all know, it's going to ultimately hurt American prices. But what's interesting right now with the tariffs is that companies in the United States actually aren't really raising their prices yet. This is actually very fascinating. The inflation rate has ticked up. That's become apparent. It's now hovering at I think it was 2.7%. If I'm wrong, I'm really close. It went up slightly, but it hasn't spiked yet, like what we would expect when tariffs come into place. But what's actually going on is companies are afraid to raise their prices for two reasons. Number one, they know that when they raise their prices, they are going to have a dramatic reduction in sales. That's obvious. But number two, which is more insidious, is they know that the Trump regime is going to come after them using political lawfare against their companies. So instead of raising their prices, companies are doing really their only other choice, They're laying people off. The unemployment rate has increased. And recently, we've got some jobs numbers coming out of the Bureau of Labor Statistics. You see, I think that another telltale sign, at this point, I view this podcast as just an informational session to inform our viewers on what fascism looks like. So another telltale sign of fascism is the falsification, fabrication of government statistics to the point so far beyond what we're even used to. Forget coding numbers or putting some makeup on them to make them look nicer. What if we just completely fabricate the data? Okay, here we go. We've got the Bureau of Labor Statistics. This is a nonpartisan government institution. In theory, it's nonpartisan. And they publish jobs data. Specifically, they publish how many new jobs are created in the American economy on a month-over-month basis. Now, something we should understand right off the bat is this number is reported the first week of every month, and it is a retrospective number. So, for example, in the first week of March, they will release the jobs number for February. Does that make sense, producer? Mm-hmm. Now, the economy in the United States is very big. So the number that's initially released, let's say, for the rest of this example, let's just use the month of March, talking about February. The number released in March isn't completely accurate. It's a sum of two numbers. The first being proof of employment submitted by the government. Because whenever you get a job, you fill out a form, and then your company sends that form into the government so they can start doing withholding tax on you. But that's only the first number. A lot of companies drag their ass. They don't submit that data for a while. So the second number is an estimation. It is an approximation based off of a model. And that model is called the birth-death model. The birth-death model is the birth of new businesses and the death of pre-existing businesses. Under normal economic conditions and in a good economy, you would assume that the number of new businesses created in any given month is larger than the number of businesses that die or cease to exist. However, it should be noted that within the model, a new business has the number of employees. The number of employees at a new business is less than the number of employees at a business that dies, which I think intrinsically makes sense. So now we can get into the data. In May, the government said that 144,000 new jobs were made in the month of May. But they revised that number down because remember, the initial number is always an approximation. But then after about another month, or certainly after another 2 months, all of the companies have sent in their paperwork. So the government can revise the number. Well, the revision went from, this for the month of May, 144,000 new jobs down to just 19,000. An absolute blow to the American economy. What is that, like an 85% reduction in the stat? Absolutely crazy. I mean, if I remember correctly, it was like the largest correction in like multiple decades. And people were just astounded. But here's the thing. Because the stock market always behaves based off of how that jobs report is. But the market doesn't behave based off of the revision. It only behaves off of the initial report. So when that 144 number came out, that was above expectations. So when that number came out, the market actually boomed. The market jumped that day, went up a lot, went up like a 1.5% or something, or maybe 0.5%, whatever. But on the news of the revision, which happened a few months ago, nothing happened. Okay, now the next month, here we go. Now it's June. The government reports 147,000 new jobs. So more than the 144 from May. Revised down to 14,000.
Oh my God.
90% drop. 2 historic markdowns back to back. What could possibly be happening? Trump comes out and he says that the Bureau is politically corrupted and they're reporting false data to make his economy look bad. But that's not what's happening. The economy is just not doing well. The economy's bad. And the reason that the model is over predicting the number of jobs is because built into the model is a low tariff rate. That's what's built into the model. And the model hasn't been updated. Well, Nick, why hasn't the model been updated? That is a pure sign of negligence on behalf of the Bureau. No, I would actually disagree. Because literally on any given day, depending on how Trump feels, he will raise, lower, or eliminate tariffs completely. At this point, today I don't even plan on mentioning specific tariff percentages because by time I released my last episode, he had changed most of the numbers. He is literally changing these tariff rates on a daily basis. So you can't blame the modelers for not incorporating this into the model. There's no baseline to build into, there's no baseline assumption. But under the Biden presidency, the baseline assumption was like 1.5% tariffs, which was essentially the average tariff rate of the United States prior to Trump taking over. So Trump comes in, lays off the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics, who was a Democrat appointed by Biden. And now he's put in some puppet. He's put in some guy, some yes man, who is just going to report false data. So now we have a problem. You see, the problem is now the numbers we get out of the Bureau, they can't be trusted. Trump's made it very clear that if bad jobs data comes out, he's going to fire you and replace you with someone else who will give good data. So the data can no longer be trusted and it's corrupted. So going forward, I'm very curious to see how markets and investors are going to react to the jobs data. But at the end of the day, the entire institution is compromised. Oh, I should have mentioned, in July, they came out and their baseline number was 73,000. Super low, below estimates. So we did 144, 147. Both of those got marked down by like 85%. July, they say 73. I'm calling it right now, that's 73. That's going to get marked down as well. And if the rate of markdown stays constant, we're actually going to see that in July, jobs were lost, which makes sense because the unemployment rate went up. So we would expect to see that. So let's see if this new guy gives us true data or not. I genuinely don't know. Trump also comes out with a billboard and he says, well, when Biden was president, 1.5 million jobs were overreported. Okay, that's actually true. It's true that when Biden was president, the initial estimates, if you add them all up over the course of his presidency, were 1.5 million jobs. But on the very same slide that Trump is showing, what he doesn't point out is, well, where does that 1.5 million number come from? Well, 600 million was markdowns, just like Trump just got. Trump just got a markdown of 85%. So of that 1.5 million, 600 million were immediately marked down in the following month. And the other 850 million was called a benchmark revision. A benchmark revision is at the very end of the year. The government goes through all the reports because what happens a lot is somebody gets a job, then they quit that job, and then they get a new job. Well, according to the paper, that's 2 new jobs, but it's one person. So that's a benchmark revision. Benchmark revisions are a few other things, and I won't get too complicated, but basically benchmark revisions account for duplications. They account for seasonal businesses. What if you're a business that is only open in the summer? Well, if you're only open in the summer and then you furlough all of your employees in the winter, you didn't actually go out of business. You're just going to open again next summer, right? So these are examples of what would be called benchmark revisions. So if you account for the benchmark revision and the markdowns, that is how Trump is getting the 1.5 million number. But literally, according to his own logic, the Bureau was being truthful. They were marking down the numbers. Now, Trump has one good point. There's a seed of truth in his web of chaos here, which is that the benchmark revision of 850 million was done after the election.
You mean 1,000?
No, 850 million.
So is it? So
Or wait. 850. No, it was 1.5 million jobs. So I guess it would be 600,000. Excuse me. I meant to say this whole time. I meant to be saying thank you, producer. Very, very good eye. Very good ear. It was 600,000 in markdowns on monthly basis and 850,000 as a benchmark. Well, Trump is correct that the 850,000 that benchmark revision was after the election. So it's definitely true, in my opinion, that the Bureau did that benchmark revision after the election so Biden could look better. I actually agree with that. But now what we're going to have is we're just going to have false data coming out of the Bureau, which is a very dangerous sign of the economy when you no longer have data that you can trust. And the economy is weak, and these other countries know it. I mean, the foreign affairs is just falling apart. We've got this war in Ukraine that is still raging on, and nothing's happened. There's been no improvements. They've passed the new spending bill. All those Doge cuts that Elon did, none of them were actually enforced. Come to find out, the only Doge cuts that stood the test of time were the layoffs. So all the actual budget reductions were undone, but the workforce reductions were kept in place. So and you guys know, I already talked about this briefly. Elon and Trump had a huge falling out. A quiet little news story that hit the news. It had maybe 3 hours of attention on a random Friday. Was that the Houthis of Yemen, the terrorists in Yemen? We actually surrendered to the Houthis. We pulled back. We were, for many months, Trump was going on TV talking about who was going to bomb the Houthis out of existence because they were blocking ships from reaching Israel, and we were going to fight this war on behalf of Israel and bomb the country of Yemen and restore free trade in the Red Sea. Well, very quietly on a random Friday, Trump comes out and says, actually, you know what? Yeah, we're not going to win this war. And they've destroyed a few of our planes, and they're intercepting our missiles. Desert people, Tusken Raiders, literally defeated the United States military, the United States Navy. So we quietly retreated. Our military strength has faded to now we can't even fight terrorists. That's like our bread and butter. We can't even do that anymore. So we've retreated from the Houthis in Yemen, which actually, let me be clear, I actually support retreating. We shouldn't be involved there anyways. But I bring this up to show the weakness of the military and the weakness of Trump's leadership. If you're going to get involved in a war, at least finish it like a man. Don't retreat to a bunch of desert people. We've given $12 billion of foreign aid to Israel just since Trump has taken office. $12 billion. And that number goes up like literally every day. I mean, it's just absolutely absurd. We had a war. We had a war with Iran. I've got to talk about this. I mean, how could I not? So I was planning an international vacation to Israel. I was planning on doing it in January of next year. But I go to buy my plane tickets, and I see in the news that Trump is moving our soldiers around. He's moving them around in the Middle East. He is moving them out of our bases. I said, that's kind of weird. That shouldn't really be happening. And I said, you know what? Let me hold off on buying these tickets. Let me wait a week or two. Let me see what's going on. 3 days later, in the middle of the night, now let's be clear, Israel was already fighting Iran. But when we were moving our soldiers, I was like, that's strange. A few nights later, Trump launches Operation Midnight Hammer. Awesome name. We get some B-2 stealth bombers to go over, and they bomb this nuclear enrichment facility in Iran called Fordow. That's the name of the base, Fordow. The base is inside of a mountain. So the B-2 bombers unleash hell on this mountain, and the goal is to basically destroy the underground bunker using air-to-surface bombs. Now, reports vary, but a lot of intelligence is now showing that the mission was actually unsuccessful and that the damages to Fordow can be completely undone in about a year and a half. Also, we now know that Trump told Iran that we were going to bomb their base a week before it happened. And because of that, all of Iran's nuclear material was evacuated from Fordow anyways. So Iran still has their nuclear material, and Trump just came out for a PR win. He literally only wanted a public relations win to say that he ended the war with Iran. But let's be clear, Iran still has their nuclear material. We bombed them, so we wasted a ton of money. We gave up a ton of international capital. And Israel is still fighting Iran. And that's still going on. Now there's reports that Israel's running out of missiles and that we've given them so many that we're at critical supply. I mean, the whole thing is absolutely ridiculous how we just bend over backwards. But, they've got that dirt on Trump. So we've got no other choice. You know, the entire government is run by Israel. We're essentially their client state, which is insane. You know, I'm watching a great movie right now, excellent movie. I recently watched it. It's called Casino, directed by Martin Scorsese. It leaves HBO Max August 31st. So if you want to watch it, hit it up on HBO Max. There's a great scene in the movie where Robert De Niro and what's the short guy? What's his name? Short gangster. He's in Home Alone. Come on, what's his name? Dang it. Joe Pesci. Nice job, Nick. Okay, I did that one on my own. So we've got Joe Pesci and Robert De Niro running a casino with mob ties in Las Vegas. And at one point in the movie, things get really bad, and the two of them are being watched by the feds, and the government is just waiting for them to meet in person so they can listen in. So they go out and they meet in the middle of the desert, in the middle of the Las Vegas desert. It's a great conversation. Let's also, in the movie, Robert De Niro's character is Jewish. And Joe Pesci and him are having a power struggle. Joe Pesci gets out of the car and starts cursing at Robert De Niro. And as I'm watching this scene in the movie, the dialogue literally perfectly applies to our relationship with Israel. It's actually incredible. You know, Joe Pesci is America and Robert De Niro is Israel. And Robert De Niro thinks he's in charge, but Joe Pesci literally says to him, like, you, like he calls him a Jew. He's like, you Jew fuck, like I run this place, I'm in charge. But the truth is, even though Joe Pesci is in charge, Robert De Niro controls Joe Pesci. It's a great scene. It's about a minute and a half long. I would recommend that you look it up on YouTube. All you have to look up is Joe Pesci, Robert De Niro, desert casino scene, whatever. The dialogue perfectly lines up with our relationship with Israel. And it's just embarrassing. At this point, it's embarrassing. It saddens me. And then on top of all this, we've got Israel continuing their genocide in Gaza. At this point, it's basically complete. 95% of all buildings in Gaza are now destroyed. If you guys have been listening for a few months to the podcast, I've given that number a few times, and every time it gets higher and higher. The new number is 95%. People are starving, and people are killing each other. Gazans are killing each other now to get access to the limited amount of food. This is a Holocaust-level atrocity that we, the United States, have greenlit. It's absolutely terrible. Israel has poisoned our relationship with all these other countries on earth, even the European countries. The European countries at first were siding with us and they're siding with Israel. Even the European countries are coming out now and they're like, I don't know, guys, we can't really support this anymore. You know, there's just no way to hide it. At this point, what I've been saying from the very beginning is so blatantly obvious. It's a tragedy. And, you know, Israel, they don't even like us. They spy on us, they manipulate us, they bribe our officials, they bug our buildings. I mean, who needs enemies when you have a friend like Israel? It is absolutely insane that we continue to do any sort of relations with these people. Trump came out a few days ago and said, states that allow anti-Israel protests will no longer receive disaster relief. Like, will no longer receive FEMA funds. So that is a direct violation of the First Amendment. That means if you protest, also, you're not even protesting against you're protesting against a foreign government. This is crazy. If you protest against a foreign government and your state doesn't shut down that protest, your state will no longer receive federal funding. Unreal. Unreal. I mean, our noses are so brown from shoving it up the ass of Israel. Unfucking believable. It makes my blood boil. All the while, Iran is launching missiles back at Israel. And Israel's got this Iron Dome, but they're running out of missiles. They're running out of anti-aircraft. So a lot of these missiles from Iran are making it through. And Western media isn't reporting on it. Western media wants to put up the image that the Iron Dome of Israel is unbreakable. But if you look into like Middle Eastern news sources like Al Jazeera, for example, there is clear video, plain as day, of Iranian missiles hitting Tel Aviv and other parts of Israel. And this is a true thing that was happening. People in Lebanon, in Syria, and in Yemen were going to outdoor concert venues. Think of it like a PNC pavilion situation for those of you that live in North Carolina, like an outdoor music venue, like a stage. People were going in the thousands, seas of people. I see the videos online. So many people that as far as the horizon can go, there's people. And on the screen, they have live videos of Israel getting bombed by missiles and people celebrating in the stadiums. That is actually hilarious. And the thing is, like, people are dying, people are getting hurt, and that's not right. But the thing is, like, I can no longer have sympathy for the Israelis because now there's polling data coming out of Israel, and it's like 85% of the people support the genocide. Like 85% of people support the actions of the Israeli government in Gaza. And it's like over 90% support they call it a preemptive strike against Iran. Like, it's become clear at this point that, like, they're Zionists. Like, and I don't have sympathy for that viewpoint, for that mentality. So yeah, you've got a town square. More people are showing up to watch missiles hit Israel than people showed up to watch our disaster of a military parade. Did you see this, producer?
No.
This was absolutely an embarrassment. So I'm in Jersey. I'm at a graduation party on June the 14th, and I told you guys last episode to watch it, so I hope you guys tuned in. And I'm watching this parade. These soldiers can't even walk in. It's like they're all on drugs. Did you see it? You didn't see it.
No.
Okay, so you've seen other parades. Have you seen videos online of like North Korean or Russian soldiers boot stepping? Have you ever seen this online? You know, yeah, exactly. It's called boot stepping. That's what that's called. Our soldiers, they're not even lifting. Their feet are barely coming off the ground. They're basically just gliding across the floor. It's like they're hung over, like they could barely walk, and it's such a pitiful. They've got old equipment clanking through. Trump is on stage looking miserable. His ankles are like the width of my entire chest. This guy's got some kind of medical problem. His ankles have like a whole fucking like the diameter of one of his ankles is probably like 3 or 4 feet at this point. It's incredible. He's like a cinder log. You got to look at him. And there's, the soldiers, they don't even want to be there. The audience is empty. There's no one in the crowd. You literally hear crickets as people like like you hear the tanks rolling down the street. At a military parade, you shouldn't be able to hear the soft puttering of a tank rolling down the street. There's no one there. And they're zooming out. There's literally like 1,000 people in attendance. Like no one. It's 1,000 people spread over like a 14-mile stretch. Like, it's literally empty. You got to go online and see the videos. It's hilarious. It's such an embarrassment. Once again, because they're stupid, they're playing Fortunate Son, Born in the USA. They're playing these songs. It's just an absolute shame. Like, it's so embarrassing. So embarrassing. But it's what Trump deserves. It's what Trump deserves. So more people are showing up to watch missile strikes in Yemen than people were at our military parade. And also, people think that Israel is our ally. Israel is not our ally. In 1967, Israel bombed the USS Liberty because it picked up radio transmissions where Israeli soldiers admitted to killing Palestinian children. The bombing lasted for hours, and American soldiers on board said that it was clearly on purpose and not an accident. But LBJ came out, said it was an accident, and repaired relations with Israel. But they bombed their own ship in 1967 because we picked up radio transmissions of them committing war crimes against Palestinians. I mean, and I know what you guys are thinking, Nick, I feel like I know what you're thinking. Nick, how could any of this be true? All of this is absolute shock. No, every single thing I've talked about, you can look up and you can verify. Israel is not our friend. So what happens after this Iranian campaign? Iran drops out of the IAEA, the International Atomic Energy Agency. The IAEA is a subsect of the United Nations where nuclear physicists come into your country and they basically check out your nuclear enrichment facilities to make sure that you're only enriching uranium to the point of nuclear energy, but not to the point of weaponry. Hopefully that made sense. Well, Iran dropped out of the IAEA after we launched this war against them because Iran went to the United States and they went to Israel and they said, we are not making nuclear weapons. We attacked them anyway. And Iran said, look, for years, the IAEA has been coming into our country and surveilling our nuclear equipment. We are not making nuclear weapons. But we bombed them anyway. So now Iran dropped out of the IAEA. So now they weren't making weapons before, but they're definitely going to make them now. So Trump has basically created a disaster. So in 5 years and 10 years, at some point in the future, Iran's going to get a nuke. So now we're going to actually, like Israel is going to attack them again. Like it's just going to become a larger issue, a larger conflagration in the area. It's it's so devastating to see people in power make absolutely terrible decisions. It really is. So I've just become totally disillusioned with the entire country of Israel. And at this point, I'm upset that we even give them a voice. But the entire government is just in their pocket. It's crazy. Oh my goodness. I'm going to talk briefly about these trade deficits again a little bit. The trade deficit in March was $138 billion, which is a massive trade deficit. But then these tariffs kicked in, and in April, to Trump's credit, we got to give credit where credit is due. The trade deficit actually dropped to $61 billion in April, down from $138 billion in March. Now you're saying, okay, that's actually great news, Nick. It sounds like we're exporting more. Sounds like American industry is back. Nope, just kidding. Actually, the reason for the drop in the trade, remember, because trade deficit is exports minus imports. And if you get a negative number, you have a trade deficit. You see, if you actually look at the data, it's not that our exports increased. Our exports actually decreased. It's that our imports dropped dramatically because American companies were expecting that people don't want to pay those higher prices. So we just had a reduction in the trade deficit because we imported less, which means that Americans bought less goods. Now, we can continue to monitor the trade deficit situation. And you know what? That's actually a fine solution. If it means that we are having smaller trade deficits and that the standard of living in the United States goes down, that might be a worthwhile trade-off for like a 10 to 15-year period if it means that we could turn around our budget. I bring this up to say the result is a smaller trade deficit, but it's not because we're exporting more. American industry has not rebounded. In fact, it continues to deteriorate. This new bill, the big beautiful bill that has now passed, is going to increase electricity costs for North Carolina residents by 18%. So if you live in the North Carolina, get ready to jack up that electric bill. And basically every single state is going to see a massive increase in their electrical bills. And the reason for that is because different subsidy programs that were going to companies like Duke Energy, for example, that'd be like for people that live in North Carolina. So by a reduction in subsidy for products like for these utility companies, we can expect to see our electricity costs rise. Oh, well, Nick, that has to happen. Nick, the government's broke. We can't be subsidizing public energy. We can't be subsidizing electricity. Well, they increased the military budget to $1.1 trillion, up from $890 billion. So no money for cheap electricity, but yes money for more bombs. So classic Republicans doing what they want. Tom Tillis, our senator from North Carolina, he was a man of honor, and he actually voted against the bill, even though he's a Republican. Voting against the bill, for a while there, it looked like by him voting no, like the bill wouldn't pass. But Trump was able to get somebody else to flip. Trump came out, said that he was going to support a primary against Tom Tillis, and Tom Tillis said, you know what? I'm disillusioned with the Republican Party. I'm not running for office anymore. Good for you, Tom Tillis. A man of honor, a man of class. He's not going to seek re-election. And now, here's the good news, guys. Trump is like, oh, okay, well then, yeah, screw you, Tom Tillis. I'm going to get some puppet Democrat. I'm going to run him in North Carolina, and he's going to win. Well, former governor, all-star Roy Cooper has announced that he is going to be running for the Senate. Roy Cooper is a Democrat. I really like the guy. He's awesome. He's got great policies. He's a super moderate guy, super moderate. Actually, I mean, a lot of people call him a dino, which is a Democrat in name only. A lot of people call him like a fake Democrat, but he is a Democrat. He's just a super moderate guy, which is what North Carolina needs as a moderate state. He's running for Senate. Roy Cooper has never lost an election in his decades of political service. I'm very excited to be voting for Roy Cooper in the next election, just for the mere fact that Trump's puppet isn't going to get in. But even if the Republican was nice, I would still vote for Roy Cooper. Roy Cooper's my man. Super excited to see him run. So that's going to really backfire for Trump because Trump just lost a Republican senator who voted with him like 70% of the time. And now he's going to get our boy Roy Cooper, who's obviously never going to vote for Trump's extremism. So Trump poisoned the well, and he's going to get what he deserves. Another story that came out in the economy that really everybody ignored is we got this Blackstone CEO. You hear about this? Mm-mm. Okay, so you know who Luigi Mangione is, right? Mm-hmm. How he killed, the CEO of United Healthcare? Yeah. Well, what no one's talking about is we've got a new assassin. Killed the CEO of a real estate investment trust at Blackstone. Blackstone is one of these massive companies that buys up real estate. Mm. And this killer killed that CEO. But the media learned their lesson. You see, the media is not for us. It's for the elites. They thought that by talking about Luigi Mangione, that the public would rally against him. But instead, he became a martyr for the cause. So this new shooting got no airtime. They realized that by giving attention to the killer, that people would side with a murderer over an evil CEO. So here's some information. The Blackstone CEO is responsible for buying up thousands of homes in the United States over just the last 3 years. To be clear, 1.2% of all homes listed in the United States are now bought by private equity. And that doesn't sound like a lot, but these homes are purchased in developing areas. So like if you live in Charlotte or if you live in New Jersey, like if you live in a place where other people live, that's where they're buying. They're not buying in Indiana, They're buying in the metropolitan areas. But I also want to be clear about something. Although these private equity companies are a problem, they're not the main issue. Remember, like I said, 1.2% of homes are purchased by private equity on a yearly basis. 23% of homes are purchased on a yearly basis by people that already own 4 homes. You see, the problem is these private equity companies, but the real problem is these Dave Ramsey types, these real estate brokers, these people that buy up residential real estate, but they're not multi-billionaires. They just have enough money to own 6 houses and then rent out 5 of them. That's the main issue in the economy that no one likes to talk about. Let me give that number again. 23% of homes purchased on a year-over-year basis are purchased by people with more than 4 homes. Now, 10% of all homes in the United States are owned by investors. 10%, which is crazy. And then we have some more statistics here. In Charlotte, 42% of people rent. And that number has been increasing every year. So I'm going to ask you, producer, what cities in the United States do you think have the highest percentage of renters? Just name off a few cities.
Chicago.
Chicago does not even crack the top 15.
Oh, wow.
Another one. Now in Chicago, it is a high percentage of renters. I think it was like, if I remember correctly, it was like 53%.
Yeah.
But remember, we're going for top 15 here, so you're gonna have to give me some better numbers.
New York.
New York City. There we go. New York City is coming in. I'm looking right here. Ninth place. 67% of people in New York City rent. Actually, much lower than I expected, to be honest. So, what places do you think have more renters by proportion than New York City? Let's just give a few more guesses.
It's gotta be L.A., another big city.
LA is 13th at 63%.
Wow.
So 63, slightly less than the 67, but still high, still very high.
What about Boston?
Boston, there we go. I'm proud of you. Good job, buddy. Boston is 10th, still below New York City, but at 65%. Okay, nice. You got to list off some other cities here. You got to think Northeast.
Northeast.
Yeah, come on, give me something else. Or just give me a state if you can't think of a city.
What about Philadelphia?
Philadelphia does not
be on
even
there.
crack the top 15.
Yeah.
Miami is 8th at 70%, which shocked me. That was very shocking to me. That the percentage of renters in Miami is greater than New York City. I thought that was very weird, right? Is that strange?
That's weird.
But look at this, ready? Let's just talk about the top 6.
Okay.
These are my people. Newark, New Jersey, 79%. Number 2, Elizabeth, New Jersey, 75%. Number 3, Patterson, New Jersey,
What is going on?
75%.
New Jersey.
4th and 5th place are New Haven and Hartford, Connecticut at 74 and 71% respectively. And then coming in at number 6, Jersey City, 71%. So of the top 6, 4 of them are the major cities of New Jersey, which is why I've decided I just literally can never buy a home in New Jersey. The prices are outrageous. So we have a serious renter issue in the United States, and it is most pronounced where I spend a lot of my time, which is up there in Jersey. It's very hard for young people. They're also showing numbers now. This number just came out. Under 10% of Americans that are under the age of 30 are married with a mortgage. So if you are married with a mortgage and you're under 30, there's a 90% chance that's not happening. That's crazy. And they're like, the percentage of young people with home ownership is at like an all-time low. Student loans are now at, Trump reinstituted, we're going to wrap up our economics section right here. Trump reinstituted the student loans, okay? He got rid of the SAVE Act, which was a plan put in by Biden, which was like an alternative payment plan that would eventually forgive your debt after like 20 years of you making payments. He got rid of that. I actually forgot all the specifics, but he got rid of it, okay? Now, I have student loans, but this doesn't impact me because I was always making my payments anyway. However, we've now reached all-time high levels of delinquency. Student loans are now 12.9% are in serious delinquency. Serious delinquency means that you have not made a student loan payment in over 90 days, which means that you are over. So let me say that again. 12.9% of student loan borrowers are over 3 months past due. Oh my God, like what? That's crazy. The number gets worse. 21% of student loan borrowers. This is not including the 12.9 I just said. An additional 21% are past due between 30 and 89 days late. So 30 days late which means you're a month behind. So the number of people that are a month behind to 3 months behind is 21%. And the number of people that are over 3 months behind is 12.9%. So if you add that up, that is, we're basically at 34% approximately of student loan borrowers. A third are in default, are late and in default, which is absolutely crazy. So no one can pay their student loans. And that is because another number just came out. All these numbers are coming out because summer's over, so the new graduates are entering the workforce. This is a true number, Kibeti. It's actually very scary for the economy. The unemployment rate this is for men specifically. The unemployment rate for men with a college degree, new graduates, is now greater than the unemployment rate for men without a college degree. So the myth of getting a degree to secure a job has now officially died. You're actually now more likely as a man to get a job by not going to college. What? When I saw that number, I had to blink twice. But it's true. Is that crazy?
That is crazy.
So now imagine you're a young man. You leave schools with the average amount of student loan debt is like 40 G's in the United States. I think that's the number. So you got $40,000 of student loan debt. You just spent 4 years in school. You're 22 years old and you can't find a job. You would have been better off not going to school, getting a job at 18 and having no student loan debt. That statement is now officially true, just on the grounds of getting a job. Now, it is still true that if you have a college degree, you will earn more money than those without. But if your sole desire is to get a job, you're actually better off not going to college anymore, which is that really like just that statistic alone breaks the entire understanding of the American promise that we've made to the youth. You know, like the concept of building an American life and, I'm just going to call it the American dream. The American dream no longer exists for young people in the United States. We have rising prices, a weak currency, unaffordable assets, stocks, houses, cars, right? We have expensive and now arguably useless education, right? The automation of white-collar work, right? All of this is happening right in front of us. It forces our generation to fight for scraps and like resent each other and compete with each other to a degree that we've really never seen before. And it's because the older generations have controlled every aspect of our economy and government for like 40 years. And all the mechanisms of power make it so that we can't really get in charge. I mean, also young people are to blame because they barely vote, but they barely vote because of disillusionment. A lot of us believe, and I think rightly so, that like it's just we're too far gone. So on that absolutely depressing note, we're going to cut to our last commercial break, and then we're going to have a super brief segment on immigration. Talking politics has become too contentious in a society where no one knows how to communicate and conversations are reduced to a soundbite. We want to bring back the political spirit of old, one of polite discourse, even among those who disagree. We want these conversations to be a jubilee. At Jubilee, we bring people with opposing views together to discuss the hot-button issues of the day in an engaging and modern roundtable format. We know our viewers come for the controversy, but stay for the content. So we discuss issues ranging from wealth inequality to religion. Our critics say that by platforming people with extreme views, we are poisoning the well and contributing to the very problem we wish to solve. So tune in, and you can be the judge during our next episode, One Zionist versus 20 Starving Children, with guest host, star Benjamin Netanyahu. Well, we're back from the ad break, and we're just going to close up this very, very engaging episode with some discussion of ICE and immigrants. Lots of racial tension in the country right now. Do you feel it? I feel like when I go outside, I feel it in the air. You feel it, producer?
Yeah.
Yeah, right? Everybody's on edge.
Yeah, more than usual.
100%. I mean, you've got the buses are empty, the construction sites are empty. You've got this is insane. You've got ICE agents hanging out in a truck, like and then they open the truck and they fly out of the truck, and then they arrest a bunch of guys at a Home Depot, and like they're staking out the joint by hanging out in the back of a truck. It's just absolutely insane. It reminds me of the movie Heat, an incredible Heat, maybe top 5 movie of all time. Incredible movie. And in the movie Heat, once again, we have my favorite actor, Robert De Niro. He is robbing a place, and they break in, but then he senses that he's being watched because there's a truck across the street, like a massive U-Haul. And he's like, that really shouldn't be there. And sure enough, it's full of federal agents waiting for him to come out with the goods. And Robert De Niro calls off the job. And that's what we have right now. The government is employing the same tactics that we use against master criminals, against hardworking illegal immigrants. And it's absolutely outrageous. The racial tension it's to levels I've never seen before. I was watching a movie called Remember the Titans. You seen this? Incredible movie. The whole movie is, every scene is full of racial tension. It's better than sexual tension. And that's how I feel America is right now. I just feel like every day that I walk around in this country, it's like Remember the Titans. I feel like I'm in the Jim Crow South. That's how I feel. It's unreasonable. I've got a close friend of mine. He's got a housemaid, and she's been working at their house for like 10 years, maybe even more. She shows up at the house. She's cleaning inside. My friend lives in LA, by the way. Shows up and she's cleaning the house. She has her things inside, whatever. She goes outside. I don't really know exactly what the timeline is here. 4 federal agents pull up, cuff her, deport her. That same day, they ship her out of the country. Her daughter is like a teenager. She never even said goodbye to her mom. They just vanished this housemaid who's been working. She's working. Imagine that. Imagine that. You come home and your mom is just gone. And she's in another country. And you can't even contact her. The only way they realize that she got taken is because on the security footage, they have the federal agents. Look at this photo. My friend sent it to me. In front of his house. The federal agents show up. Isn't this excessive force for one woman? Look at this. Tactical gear, guns. What the fuck is going on? And also, you'll notice they're FBI. And the reason that's important is because Trump is using all the agencies. He's using ICE, the Marines, the FBI. He's basically turning every single agency into ICE. And look at that. Isn't that just tragic? They took her. And she's gone. She's gone. She's already gone. It's absolutely devastating. And now the daughter's here and she doesn't know what to do. It's, what the fuck, right? No hearing, no nothing. I mean, these are the people we want in the country. These people work harder than the whites. Why are we getting rid of them? It doesn't make sense. It's a sin. It makes me sick. It makes me absolutely sick. But it's all about Trump's idea of, quote, the enemy within. Have you heard him saying this on the news? Yeah. He calls these people the enemy within. And he refers to the enemy within, he's referring to illegal immigrants, whether they're working or not. We should deport illegal immigrants that are on welfare. We should deport illegal immigrants that don't have jobs. We should deport illegal immigrants that are criminals. But we should not deport illegal immigrants that are working. The entire country runs on them. We should give them work visas. You bring them in. Oh, okay, we caught you. Bring them in. Get them a work visa, whatever. But don't send them home. The country's going to fall apart. I mean, already it is. Construction jobs, the prices have soared because a lot of these guys, they don't even want to come out to work anymore because that's where they get you. That's the thing. That's what's fucked up about it. What's fucked up about it is they're detaining you and deporting you while you're working. Like these guys at Home Depot, or this cleaning lady. They're coming and finding you while you're working, while you're contributing to society. That's when they take you. Absolutely disgusting. So yeah, but it's all about, the enemy within. I mean, but there is, I guess, a little bit of good news here. A little bit of good news. Just a very small amount, but it should be mentioned. The first is there was too much political heat associated with that death camp in El Salvador that I've been talking about. So they moved all those people to Venezuela. I mean, I guess it's a small improvement, but at least we're not putting them in a death camp anymore. Like I said, small improvement. You take the wins where you can. Right? But these people, they're in Venezuela now. Another thing is that over the last 4 years, New York City has spent $6.9 billion aiding for illegal immigrants, giving aid to illegal immigrants. So I guess on the bright side, that's a lot of, I mean, let's be real. They shouldn't be doing that, right? I mean, there's no excuse to be spending we're just going to round up, $7 billion over a 4-year period on illegal immigrants. That's crazy. Especially when the infrastructure of the city is totally falling apart. I just want to make my stance really clear. I just don't think we should be deporting the illegal immigrants that are working. We should be getting them work visas. Other than that, it's 100% true that the abundance of, we'll call them freeloading illegals. That's what we'll call them. I mean, it's a serious endemic issue in the United States, right? $6.9 billion over 4 years is crazy. That's just New York City. Chicago, the number is 79 million in 2.5 years. And you're saying, wow, that's much lower. What's Chicago doing that New York City isn't? Well, Chicago is much more hostile to the homeless. It's absolutely frozen in the winter. You will literally die of hypothermia if you're homeless. Whereas in New York City, you could always sleep in the subways underground. And even though Chicago has subways, in New York City, the infrastructure is so old that it's like, even in the winter, it's like routinely 85 degrees in the subways. And take it from me, because I was there like a few weeks ago. It's crazy. On a hot summer day, I swear to you, it must have been over 100 degrees down there. It was just so hot. I guess one final positive note that we can end the podcast on is that 500,000 Haitians were deported. I think that's a great thing. As you guys know, I just despise Haitians. As a Dominican, it's part of my blood and a part of my heritage that we have a never-ending rivalry between us Islanders. And even though these 500 Haitians were legal, they were actually legal green card holders. Even though they were illegal, we 100% made the right decision by cleansing the Midwest of them. And we sent them back to where they belong, to their destitute island. So I really appreciate you guys joining me today for this episode of the No Good News podcast. I'm heading off to Japan in about a week or two here, going off to paradise. And you know what? If the Lord takes me, that's fine. I'd love to die in Japan. I'll see you guys soon, and I'll have hopefully some good news and some lovely things to share about this trip. I'm very excited. Bye-bye now.